Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast, where we interview experts in driver recruiting. We provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to help you level up your recruiting game. Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Craddock, and today we have Elisha Grayson with American Central Transport, or ACT. And I'm super excited to have her on the show. So Ginger met her in Kansas City a few months ago when we were there visiting some other clients, and chatted with Alicia about potentially coming on the show. And she was gracious enough to join us today. And I'm super excited to have her on the show just because of her diverse background in recruiting. She was at Yellow for a number of years, and then at Big M, and then now she's at ACT. And then the other reason I'm excited to talk to Alicia today is that she's just really passionate about leadership, developing teams, developing relationships with drivers, and just about the industry as a whole. And so I love getting people on here that are just excited about the industry, excited about drivers, excited about just the opportunities. And even though it's been a little bit more of a challenging market for the last couple of years, like there's just still a lot of light in the trucking industry and positivity if you really invest in people. And so that's some of what we're going to dive into today. So Alicia, I have here in our notes from when you chatted with Ginger that you came from fashion merchandising. That was your degree.
Yeah.
And then you ended up in transportation. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I went to school at Northwest Missouri State for fashion merchandising. That was kind of, what I wanted to do, being in the people business, clothing. And so when I was finished with school, I was working at Buckle for a really long time, going through their leadership program. And right when I was finished with school, I realized, I don't really like that working 60-hour weeks, working every weekend, Saturdays, Sundays. And when I went to school for fashion merchandising, I really wanted to move to like California and kind of live that life out there, doing something kind of fun and exciting. And I met my husband while I was in college, and I have a stepdaughter. I met her when she was 1. She is now 15. So I've been in her life since she was 1. So I'm mom, but I needed to settle down here in Kansas City so that we could stay close to her mother. And so fashion merchandising, what that looked like here in Kansas City was more of working that retail kind of stuff, and just wasn't interested really in that anymore. So started looking for a position. I actually kind of started in the recruiting world, working at a staffing agency. And I was there for about a year. And unfortunately, they let me go. So I didn't make it quite a year. But then, I was out there looking for a position, and having a degree in fashion merchandising, people kind of don't take you very seriously. And so I was struggling a little bit trying to find a job. So I went back to one of my friends at that staffing agency, and I was like, hey, what do you guys have open? Like, is there anything that's a good fit for me? You know what I like to do. And she's like, well, yeah, there's this position at Yellow, just starting out as a contractor. And if you do a good job, they'll hire you on full time. And I was like, okay, perfect. I'll take it. So I started at Yellow as they used to call the position like a specialist. So I was just doing like a lot of entering paperwork type stuff. Realized I loved trucking. I loved the people at Yellow. I loved the atmosphere. It was, really laid back. So I just started working my way up at Yellow. So they hired me on, and then I was like a different type of specialist. So I got more stuff to do. Then I was an internal recruiter. And then I moved to an outside recruiter where, it was like boots on the ground, just traveling all over the U.S. and worked my way up to supervisor and management. And I feel like everyone always knows this. Like when you get in trucking, it's hard to leave trucking. So I definitely see myself being here, for the long run. But trucking was definitely something other than fashion merchandising that I loved. For a little bit, I had my own like business online for fashion. But after adding 2 more kids to the family, I decided to let that little passion go and just fully stick it out with trucking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I relate to so many of those things. So I lost my job about May. So the end of this month will be 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what catapulted me into starting my own company. And that was really hard and kind of a hit to the ego. And then there was something else I should have written down. But then I also relate to just the craziness of life like with young kids. And so, because we have boys a similar age, and it's a challenge, and definitely a season of growth. Like I think I'm growing a lot just with figuring out, you don't realize how much time you have until like it's gone and you're chasing two little ones and shuffling them to different places, and or they're sick. We were sharing that our little guys got sick in the last few weeks, and I was sharing with Alicia prior to the call. It's like I had a day last week where I felt like I was firing on all cylinder, up at 5, and I was like, I'm going to conquer the day. It's great. And then I get back to home to take the kids to school, and my wife was like, and one of our little boys has pink eye. And then I think that was when we had to move this show, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just now connected the dots. And I was like, well, the one thing I can't do is do a podcast while watching a kid with pink eye. So, but yeah, we just adapt and learn and so that's so cool and then the other thing, so I didn't know I would end up in transportation. It was just a friend of mine was like, hey, this was 13, 14 years ago. Like there's this thing called paperclip marketing. That's what I thought he said. Mm-hmm. And it's pay per click. I didn't realize it was like the Google ads. That's how little I knew 14 years ago. I like Googled it, and I was like, oh, there's ads. I didn't realize there were ads, and transportation, and it just seemed like a good opportunity at the time, and so I made a jump into transportation, and as Alicia was saying, like I love it, and don't plan on ever leaving the industry, and so if you're not in the industry and you're listening to this, just consider it.
Yeah.
What does changing the stereotype from driver to professional truck driver mean to you?
Well, kind of like what you just said of, if you're listening to this, trucking might be in your future or something to check out. There's so many people, growing up, did I ever think I would be in trucking? Absolutely not. Like my grandpa was a truck driver, and I know that he was gone a lot, and, seeing it was like all men, like it wasn't a position for women to really be in. It was more, a man's world. And so I never thought that I would be in trucking. And really, to be honest, since I've been at ACT, we've recruited all different types of people for truck driving positions, because we also hire students right out of school. I have a ballerina that works for us. She was a ballerina for years and then decided to do trucking. We have a guy who, was very top-notch, high up in IT, who became a truck driver. I do see it be really common for military to come in trucking. I think that they really like that, trying to go back to that like civilian life can be difficult sometimes. And when they're in trucking, they're kind of like out there on their own. They have their own space, doing their own thing. Not a lot of people like bossing them around kind of stuff. And so we have about 27% of our drivers are currently military. And, but like I said, with females, the trucking world, I would say since I've been in trucking over the last 9 years, it's become more common to see women in trucking, which is amazing to me. We have a good amount of female drivers that we have here at ACT. And then I attend the Women in Trucking conference every year, where there's a ton of women, getting together and networking. And it's really cool to see how many women, are getting in this position. And it's not really, they say that, the man's world. Well, it's not that anymore, because there are so many women, and there's so many women in leadership roles. That's really exciting to see. But I think it is really important to get out there and, talking to people, like especially seniors in high school, that trucking is an option. There are a lot of positions that people can do, but you can get into trucking and you can eventually make a 6-digit figure income. And people, I don't think, understand that. So it's really important to be talking to these younger generations about that and letting them know that this really could be a great career for you, because they don't think about it. And we really need those younger drivers right now too. So.
Yeah. Ginger was telling me just the enthusiasm from this last Women in Trucking, and just so many amazing women that she met in the industry. And yeah, and it's just been cool over the years. Like, some of my best leaders and managers have been women in the industry, and, you wouldn't necessarily think of that. And then also just the clients we work with, there's as many women directors recruiting. I don't know what the actual stats are, but we work with, I think, more women right now than men that are leading recruiting departments and teams and executives. And yeah, it's just that I think, and a lot of people, it's not getting into trucking isn't necessarily like, while there are great positions driving trucks as a woman, and that's more conducive than it was a couple decades ago. Just so many amazing other opportunities, like what you're doing, building teams and inspiring drivers, and I'm just excited about that. What do you love about working at ACT? Like, you've been at a couple different fleets, but or 3 different fleets, and so what specifically sticks out about working at ACT that you really love?
It's really the culture. My boss, Phil, he's super down to earth. I know probably a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast have met him before. He's just really easygoing, easy to talk to, very approachable. Like, our drivers are coming into the office all the time and chatting with him. He makes time for his people. And you don't see a lot of presidents, or people in his position that do that. And he knows, and he really makes it feel like a family atmosphere here, makes himself available. But then, when I was working at Big M, I was 100% remote. I traveled a lot, but I was remote. And coming to ACT, I was a little worried about being back in the office full time if I really wanted to do that with small kids at home. And I actually love it. So here at ACT, the great thing about us is our doors that go into our cafe that we have for our drivers, they are open from 7:30 to 4:30. So drivers can always come back into the office and talk to anybody they need to. So, if they have a payroll issue, or if they need to talk to their DSM, their driver support manager, or, any of the executive team people, they are able to come back and have conversations with us. They don't have to try to, do the phone thing and get sent to everybody trying to figure out who they need to talk to. And they can actually come back, find the right person, and get their questions answered. But I love that I have drivers in my office all the time, just, talking to me, checking in. I am kind of over some of our training program to where, our students are able to come in and tell me how the training's going. Our trainers can come in and talk to me and let me know how the students are doing. And, they are always giving me ideas of things that we can tweak a little bit to make things better. And I think that's really important to be talking to your drivers, because, at other companies that I've been at, it wasn't really encouraged to talk to drivers. Getting out there in front of the drivers could sometimes be kind of intimidating a little bit, especially, as walking out there as an only female. And a lot of them are men. And, but here it's just really great having the drivers be able to come back and talk to me and discuss and give me new, fresh ideas, let me know what they're seeing out there and how I can help them be better. But ACT just does a lot for their people. We have a life coach. Second Tuesday of the month, we have a luncheon, and it's not just like brats and burgers. Like, we actually go full out. Sometimes we have steak sandwiches. Tomorrow is actually one of our lunches, and we're doing like pulled pork. And so it's like good food. And then we put all the food together for drivers that couldn't come in, and they put them in the fridge so that the drivers can come in and grab like a to-go little bag of food. And then there's just a lot of things here that they do for the drivers that's just a little bit extra special, that I feel like everyone should feel appreciated. I feel appreciated. A lot of the drivers tell me that they feel appreciated. So it's just really the atmosphere, the culture, very family-like here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things Ginger had mentioned is that it's all labeled really well, like where different staff are in your building, and like if the drivers are looking for a certain role or department.
Yep.
And I think she even mentioned that there were like pictures and names like at each desk.
Yep. So you walk back into the office, and there's on the very top of the ceiling, there's like a hang down thing that says payroll, recruiting, safety. And then each person has their picture with their name at their desk. And then we just recently did like a little personality thing where we all have like colors at our desk too, to where if you're like a blue person or gold or orange, it helps you to know kind of how to communicate better as we've learned about all the different personalities. So that's a little extra piece that was kind of fun that we did this year. But yeah, you're really able to find whoever you're looking for pretty easily.
That's huge. Yeah. And I love those little different personality tests and knowing how to relate and talk to different people. That's so cool that y'all incorporated that. And I don't think I've heard of another fleet that has the name and the picture. I think that, I love that. Just humanizing it. Because even if they're not there, then okay, well, when I run into Alicia later, I know who she is because I see her picture. Today's sponsor. Do you hire truck drivers in hard to fill areas, or do you need help creating efficiency in your recruiting department? You're not alone. With 50 plus years experience, Trucking Click specializes in data-driven strategies, industry-leading customer experience, and custom solutions that'll get you to your goal. Trucking Clicks is your go-to place for high-quality, direct leads at scale. Visit truckingclicks.com or call 512-982-0816 today. So you had mentioned briefly the life coach role.
Yeah.
So walk me through, I don't think, I know some fleets do that, but I just want to hear directly from like what you've noticed, as you've added that role to help drivers and other staff. So what does that entail? And how does that help?
Yeah. So with our life coach, there's just a bunch of different things that he does and can help with. We really try to focus on some of the bigger things, that drivers have concerns about. So, when you see all those surveys of the top reasons, that drivers are out there struggling or having issues with, you always see the pay situation. So financial, making sure their family's taken care of. So our life coach really helps financially with them of doing different types of budgeting and, taking what their income is and making sure that they're just being responsible with their money and trying to help them find different tweaks of what they can do differently to help them out financially in the long run for themselves and their family. And really explaining why it's important to have a 401k. We did a little kind of Dave Ramsey session a few quarters ago where there was 4 classes that your family could join. So your wife could be on there, your husband, the driver, anyone in office was invited to join and kind of go through smart things with money. But then also really helping with health and fitness. So we've been doing different types of videos to get out there to them of different exercises you can do, using your truck, going into a gas station, what are some more healthy options that you can choose instead of just grabbing a bag of chips? What else is there that's better for you? We also have Rocky, and he is, he's a pastor, and he comes in once a week as well and just checks in kind of more of the, religion side of things, but not even just that. He's really big on helping, if you need a little bit of counseling help, if you're having marriage problems that you need to talk to somebody about, there's just a lot of different things that he offers as well. So the two of them combined, it's every kind of situation you kind of get in or, need some help, either one of them is able to be here and help them. And they're able to meet in person, over the phone. If they're out on the road, we can do things like Teams video, all of those kind of things.
That's so cool. I'm even thinking for the vision of our team as we continue to grow, just providing that, because I just know when I've been going through hard times, I didn't necessarily seek that out. But if it had been readily available where I'm I can walk down the hall or jump on a call and just share what's going on.
Right. Because everyone has, an HR office where you can, find those things, but then you actually have to go talk to your HR and get the phone numbers and pamphlets and all of that, where these two guys are here just ready, available, ready to have a conversation about what you're going through. And it makes it really easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's I read the book, I think it was The Power of Habit, or one of the habit books. And it talks about just if you're wanting to learn how to play the guitar, put the guitar out in your living room, or if you're wanting to go to the gym, way your gym closed out the night before. It's just like eliminating that one step. While they can go to HR and like the company might fund that benefit, then they schedule an appointment, then they go there. It's just, a bunch of reasons not to do it. So I think you're just eliminating by having someone there and more readily accessible. It just makes those conversations happen more often.
Yeah.
So eliminating that friction. So I love it. So one of the things that I'd seen you post about, or actually this was just something you had chatted with Ginger about, was that you're excited about AI in recruiting. And I think some of that was going to the conversion recruiting and retention conference this year, which I know they highlighted a lot about just the changes with AI. So what are you excited about, like with leveraging AI in recruiting?
Yeah. What I'm really excited about is I feel like it can make things a lot faster. So being able to, as soon as an application comes in, it can shoot a text out and kind of give some information of like those questions that drivers are always looking for, is where's your pay, where's your miles, that kind of stuff. It can just quickly give them information very fast. And then I keep hearing about this system where a person can call in and they have like an AI person at first to kind of see if they're really qualified for the position or if it's something they're really interested in. Because, I've had a team of 40 before, and now I have a team of 3. And so when you're getting, 500, 800 applications in every day, it's really hard to get through all of those to find the people that are super quality and that are really looking for what you have to offer. So I think using AI is going to really help with that, make things faster. The one thing I never want to get rid of course, is, like the human touch, though. Of course, I think it's very important. I want my recruiters really speaking to the people that are very interested in the position. I don't ever want to see that go away, but I do really think that AI is going to make things a lot faster.
Yeah. It's like, how do you leverage AI to get into the conversations with the right people? So it's like, you definitely still want to have those conversations for sure. That's cool. I haven't heard about anybody using the AI call things yet, like in recruiting. I'm kind of eager to hear kind of how those go.
I think
I've
it
seen
will
a lot
happen within the year. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's crazy is like, so my son and I, like my 4-year-old, and I'm trying to teach him how to use AI tools.
Uh-huh.
And so Midjourney is, you can create images on it just with text prompts.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's called prompt engineering. But I started with Midjourney, like whatever the month it came out. And then it's improved so much now. Like I sent my wife a couple images, like the prompt I did 2 nights ago at our little bedtime routine. I'm a nerd when I do like AI with my kid at bedtime. But I was like, so I live in Austin. And so I was like, Lake Travis, Austin, Texas, guy, middle age, like this body fat percentage. And then was like 4-year-old. And it generated like fake people with their 4-year-old son that look 100% real. Like there's no way now. Where like 6 months ago, you couldn't tell like that. I mean, you could still tell that like, oh, this is maybe artificial intelligence generated, but like you can't now. Like I could give you 10 different images and you wouldn't know. And I said taken with iPhone 15 Pro as one of the prompts. So it looks like it's taken with an iPhone. Uh-huh. And so I'm just amazed at, like you talk about in the next year, like I don't doubt that because like artificial intelligence, like a lot of people don't realize it's improving exponentially. It's not that it gets twice as good. It's 10 times as good every time. Yeah. And so Midjourney, this is version 6 that I'm using, but each version has been 10 times better. And it's like my son will like this, what he did 2 nights ago was a spider giraffe. Like he just like makes up stuff. But I mean, it makes up like these fictional creatures and things. And it's just insane. He's wanting to write a book. Like, and so I think the way we're going to do it is like, because we just make up random stories too at bedtime, is like we'll like make up a random story, record it, and then we'll go and like make all the AI images like relative to it, and then put it in a book. So
awesome.
But yeah, I'm excited about AI too, and some of that marketing automation you talked about, like chatting and just how can we like messaging is a good example, like you said, of just how can we do those messages back and forth that, you technically don't know if it's a human or not. And then, but it's on that step before getting physically on the phone with them.
Right.
So that's awesome. Yeah. So what are you reading or listening to right now?
So I am currently reading Untamed, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that book. It's actually, it's based on like a woman who I'm probably like a fourth of the way through, maybe almost half. Mm-hmm. I'm actually listening to it as an audiobook when I drive back and forth from work. But it's basically the beginning of the book talks about like this cheetah and how it like goes out there. It's encaged, and she took her kids to go see this little show where this cheetah is like being shown basically of like how fast it can be. And then once the show's over, the cheetah gets put back in the cage, and the daughter notices, this little girl just notices like, Mom, that cheetah's not happy. She's just looking out there past her cage, kind of wondering like, what else is out there? Like, am I missing something? And it's kind of about like women and how, we're raised to act a certain way, to be a certain way, to, always be ladylike and cleaning the house and taking care of the kids and being in the kitchen. But there's so much more out there, that we can be, that we don't have to be like those specific things that they say women need to be. And I feel that we kind of like, it makes me think of like leadership. And, I'm trying to teach my daughter right now, because I was always taught when I was younger, if there's something that the answer is going to be no, like you might as well not even ask the question. And I'm trying really hard to teach my daughter of, you don't know the answer is always going to be no. Like, just ask the question. Like, if there's something that you want to know or you want to do, you got to put yourself out there and ask the question. So it's just kind of teaching women that they don't have to be in this little box of what, like, that they're raised to be, that we can do more things and act different ways and get out of our shell and, go out and have fun, and at work, be a voice and speak up and talk and not just hide away and let the men like take over. And that's kind of what the book is about. It's really eye-opening. At first I tried to read it and I couldn't really get into it. But then as I'm listening to it on audiobook, it's been easier to understand and like listen to it and actually take in the thoughts. And it's a really good book. But yeah, it's called Untamed. And to be honest, as far as podcasts, I've been listening to a little bit of trucking podcasts here and there just to see what's going on. But I am a total crime junkie person. I love listening to all the crime stories and stuff like that. That's really what I find interesting. I think, so when I went to school for fashion, there was a part of me who wanted to be in forensics before I did that. But then my brother told me a story and scared the crap out of me. So I went away from that, but I still like to listen to that kind of stuff too. Makes your mind really start thinking of like, wow.
I'm drawing a blank on the show that my wife and I watch. Oh, All the Murders in the Building. Did you ever see that show?
I haven't. What is that on, like Netflix?
Anyway, I think it's on Netflix or Hulu. It's one of the streaming platforms. But it's got 2 series. But yeah, that's kind of my only exposure to like crime drama. And it's really well done and keeps you guessing. But yeah, I do like the twists and turns of that. And then I just love just your passion for like women in leadership and just people being more bold. I think so many people have these visions and like things they want to do, but if it's outside of what you, like you said, like if you expect to get a no or expect to meet conflict, then you just don't do it. And I was kind of programmed that way as a kid. Like, I don't think it was intentional by my parents.
Yeah.
But just, like to run away from uncomfortable. But
right.
I want to also embody in my children just to be bold and like get uncomfortable, like be okay with no. And I have to like kind of pep myself up every day, like, cause I care what people think.
Yeah.
And sometimes I shrink back. And so it's like, I almost have to give myself a pep talk every morning. And I'm like, Erin, be bold today. Like I literally texted my wife like this morning, I said, I pray that we will boldly live as we go throughout this week with joy through faith in Jesus, because that's something important to us.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, let's keep on leaning in and growing. And I just think, yeah, it's just so important to do that. And I think it's so much easier to just go with the norms and like whatever society tells you, and to shrink back and not be bold. And it's kind of been cool. My wife has a vision for like a book she's writing now that she started in January. And it took her getting around other women that like you're promoting with your daughter to kind of encourage her to just like take action on that. Like I had encouraged her forever, but there's just something about hearing from another woman that like yourself that's been successful. Like you worked up through the ranks and trucking leadership from a contract position, and then now you're director of recruiting at your second fleet. And that, you're going to have more impact on these women by being like, look, I was bold and I went after it. And yeah, so I'm just super encouraged by that. And that's so cool you're doing that with your daughter.
I think it's really, really important to teach your kids that lesson, and how to be bold, because honestly, when I was at my first job, that I got let go from, it was actually something I initially learned from my husband is, when people are not always nice to you, like you got to stand up for yourself. And, if someone wants to, tell a lie, you need to make sure you tell the truth and not just say, oh, it's okay. People will get over it and just move on about your day. That, you need to stand up for yourself and you need to have a backbone. And so when I had left that first job and moved into Yellow, that's one thing I went in with. Okay, I'm not going to let people walk all over me. I'm not going to, let people just talk whatever they want or any type of way to me. But I'm also going to be very professional in how I handle like tough conversations and tough situations. And so I learned that a lot at Yellow. And then even going into a supervisor role where you're managing people and having to learn to have tough conversations, because everyone is different. You could think you're going into a conversation where it's just going to be easy and like laid back. And, I've had people with their fingers in my face yelling at me and that I didn't think it was going to go that way at all. So it's really important to be able to have tough conversations, because it's when you get in a leadership role and you've never had to do it before, that's hard. So I think it's really important for me to teach my kids that it's okay to ask uncomfortable questions. And, if you're, with my daughter, there's been times where her friends, and they weren't getting along, and, oh, well, this person told this person this, and, the drama of high school. And I always tell her, okay, well, walk up to that girl and say, hey, why'd you say this about me? Is there something that I did to upset you? Or, put yourself in uncomfortable. But then, especially with high school, there could be a string of things going on that maybe that wasn't the initial thing that happened. Maybe it went differently. So walk up to the girl, the person, and say, hey, let's talk about this. Get uncomfortable, have the conversations. Because as I found, the more times you do that, the better this situation turns out. To where if you just, instead of just putting it under the rug and walking away from it and always having that, well, that one time this person I heard said this about me, but maybe it's not even true. So that's a huge thing I'm trying to teach my kids, is that it's okay to have tough conversations and it's okay to ask questions and to get uncomfortable sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I find that as the parent, like we want to, or like I want to step in and like protect them from the hard things. Mm-hmm. And like, and I see that with my wife being in education. She's a teacher, has been doing it 12 years. And, there's an approach like a lot of parents have where they'll like try to just be like, okay, teachers deal with it. Like there's a level of like, we need to teach our kids to just how they deal with the hard, because like life's hard and there are hard things and people do mean things.
Yeah.
And, you have to sometimes confront that and stand up for yourself and learn how to have those conversations that are uncomfortable. And so that's just so cool you're teaching your daughter to do that. Because I remember middle school was hard for me, and high school, and different aspects of it, and that's cool. So along those lines, like you're talking about, like with your team and how you have had to have hard conversations. One of the things I noticed when I was looking over your LinkedIn is you have like 10 LinkedIn recommendations, and a lot of those were just different people that have been on your team, like praising your leadership. And some of the words that were used was that you're a compassionate leader. And so What makes a compassionate leader and a great team builder?
More than anything is, you have to be able to go in there. I always say this is go in there and get your hands dirty too. So, I remember at Yellow, there was times where my team was so overwhelmed with the amount of leads that we were getting in, and it was so busy. And, I had a timeline of where I wanted every lead called within a certain amount of time, since they come in. And I remember just sometimes out there just seeing them drowning. And, if I had the time or could make the time and move stuff around, I was getting in there, hitting the phone with them to try to help them get caught up. So really, I always say, getting in there with your team and getting your hands dirty and helping them along the way, and not just holding yourself up here of like, oh, well, I'm a director now. I don't need to be on the phone calling people. That's not my job. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is that's not my job. I can't stand when people say that because really, like in leadership, you have to be willing to do anything and everything to make sure that your team is where they need to be and putting in the work. And that's how a successful team, I think, works is, even when you're in the director type level of getting in there and helping them and making sure that they're succeeding. But I've also always told my team, I'm really big on, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? And if that's, you get to a certain position now where you don't think you can grow, like right now I'm the director, I'm in my 30s, I'm probably going to be here for a while. So some of the women on my team probably won't have the opportunity to be in a director position in recruiting if that's where their passion is. So it's my responsibility to build them and get them ready to where if a position like that pops up somewhere else, they can go somewhere else and be, that director. Because I don't think someone needs to be stuck somewhere just because they can't grow. So it's really important to me getting my team to where they want to be and to go to the next level, no matter if that's at the company they're at now or somewhere else. Because I had a female leader at Yellow that she was really big on that. She was always helping me to get to the next level. And I think really when I was in management and a director position opened, I was ready. And I think it's because of her that I was ready. She really helped me, learn the things and learn how to have tough conversations and how to work with a team. And and I've always told my team having a mentor is a really great thing of somewhere else that you want to be, like, so for the next level. But then, also setting up goals with your teams and having monthly, quarterly conversations. I know some managers have weekly conversations, and like sit down one-on-one conversations, but I work with my team so closely and my door's always open. They're like, we don't have weekly conversations. Ours are more sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly, as long as everything's like going well, because throughout the day, we just continue to talk and we're updating each other and working together all day long. And even when I had a big team, it was the same way. We were working just so closely together that we didn't have to have those one-on-one conversations as much. Then also just really coaching people. If you have someone who is not doing well or not doing what they're supposed to be, not meeting their goals, then having more, conversations with them, coaching them to try to get them where they need to be. I've had a lot of people on my team where I was able to coach them to where they needed to be. They weren't doing very well. They weren't meeting their numbers. And, somewhere like, why can't you just get rid of this person? Well, because there might be other things going on. So really getting to know them, sitting down with them and listening to their phone calls, giving them tips and tricks and not trying to be like a boss over there, just, hounding them and looking over their shoulder, but more sitting with them to help them and making sure that they understand that. Because it's always easier to have someone who knows the role and to coach them correctly and have them become better than, hiring someone brand new and teaching them all over again. So I'm really big on just coaching my team and, getting to know them personally as well. There's a lot of leaders out there who don't want to mix personal relationships, with work relationships, but I enjoy going out to dinner with my team. Every once in a while, if it's someone's birthday, we all go out to lunch together and we take like an hour and a half lunch and, go and not talk about work, talk about our kids and our families and what else is going on. And we do big like birthdays. We get like fun birthday gifts and go all out for that. And just being a team, having team builder stuff outside of work that, isn't always work related, where we're talking to each other more about personal stuff and getting to know each other like on that level. Mm-hmm. And, people
That's
say
awesome.
they don't do that because then if it comes time to where they're, that person's in trouble or they need to fire that person, it's hard. Well, yeah, it is hard. But, then when you're letting that person, I've had an instance where I've had to let someone go where personally I really knew them very well and their kids and their husband. And, it's when that comes time, they understand that it's not personal, that you're not letting them go personally, that, they weren't doing the goals and reaching the things that they needed to. And it doesn't make it more of a hard conversation just because you know them personally. Most of the time they do understand.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many gold nuggets in that, like the monthly or quarterly reviews, and then helping people reach their goals like that. Like when I looked back on my time at the previous company I worked with, it wasn't, the salary increases. It was really like when I looked back on what gave me the fulfillment, it was helping people reach like other positions in the company. Or to your point, like a lot of times there's not an opportunity here. Like some people went on to lead nonprofits or marketing at a Fortune 500 company or, just I love that approach. I think so many companies like try to hold on like with everything they can to their employees and like almost like speak into them that they can't go have this opportunity. It's just so cool hearing from you, just encouraging that, building, coaching. Mm-hmm. And then the cool thing about that is that means, as you're a good leader in that, like sometimes there will be another bigger opportunity down the road where they might come back and work with you or you might work with them somewhere else. Like you never know who, like you might be the boss of technically like in the hierarchy chart, but then one day they might be your boss or running the company. Like you literally never know. Yeah. And so that's just so cool. And then
it was really
coaching
exciting
well.
When like Yellow, went out of business, seeing all of the people that I worked with there and the teams that I built there, like a lot of them were okay. A lot of them came out of that at being at places either, making more money or in a higher role or I have a recruiter here that when I learned about them going out of business and everyone losing their jobs, I was like, hey, ACT is a great company, like come over here. So I had, grabbed one of my recruiters that I had hired at Yellow and trained but a lot of my team that I had at Yellow came out of that situation in a good spot. So that was really exciting for me to see.
Well, it's like even when you lost your job, like earlier in your career, like, and then just how it opened up, new opportunities and like same thing for me. Like I wouldn't have made the leap and started my own business. Like if I hadn't been laid off, and so it's just cool. It's cool it's just amazing how that's typically the story you hear is it ends up being a better opportunity. Well, I know we're coming up on the end of time, but thank you so much, Elisha, for joining us today. And I think we added a lot of value to the audience and I really appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Our goal with the Hire Truckers podcast is to provide industry insights, marketing trends, and motivation to help you level up your recruiting game. Thank you for joining us today. And if we added value, please take 10 seconds to share this with your network.